buy some through Dawala onto Mt. Gox. Back in the day, I think I was going to wire like $4,000 at the time, and I chickened out. I was too scared to try to risk. I should have just risked 100, and tried to do it. And then it wasn't until the end of 2012, I was actually at Ron Paul Fest, and I got my first Bitcoin. There was some vendor there at Paul Fest down in Tampa, and they gave me my first, blocks or something, and they gave me my first $5 worth of Bitcoin, which, was probably half a Bitcoin at the time.
Right.
And was really kind of engaging in what these two new types of alternative currencies were.
How do you see this impacting politics?
Right now, we're already seeing kind of regulations from, regulatory bodies and politicians kind of get involved in terms of the infrastructure bill. We need to be able to push back and ensure that poor regulation doesn't hamper this technology in this country. And I see the infrastructure bill, the way it's written, as very poor regulation. And then fundamentally, a distributed ledger allows for us to permanently record what has been done in our governance systems. And, politicians like to say one thing and do another, and you can't really hold them to account necessarily, especially with the current systems that we're running. So if you can record what they're doing and you can prove that they said one thing and did another, and we can actually go to that as the system of truth or sense making, we can, conceivably hold the people who were delegating responsibility to make decisions for us accountable if we can prove that, they're not doing what they say they're going to be doing. And, through smart contracting and through distributed autonomous organizations and liquid democracy in voting, we can, potentially seed we can delegate responsibility to make votes, but we can eventually withdraw consent to those people and say we want to, we don't want those people making decisions anymore. We want these people, and until if they make the decisions that we want them to do, and if they don't, then we want to go to someone else. And right now, you get someone elected, and you can try to get them out of office, but you can't really do that, and it takes 4 years, and so many the technology, everything moves much faster than that now. So with I would say with the distributed governance, we'll be able to withdraw consent or be able to make changes within our governance services much faster.
You view it as a possibility that this could literally change the way that governments operate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we are being honest with ourselves, all government should be operating on a distributed ledger as soon as possible, in the sense that if you want to hold things accountable, if you want to have anti-corruption measures, these are the tools that allow for that. It doesn't mean that the government wants to implement it quite yet. You need to have people in power that want to help implement those things. And I think the millennial generation is kind of Gen X, and the millennial generation is going to come into power in the next 5 to 10 years, where we're going to be the elected officials. And those people understand the corruption of the system, as well as the tools that allow us to fix these societal problems that we've had, and the consensus making ability for it.
When did you start getting into crypto?
So I got into crypto while I worked at Amazon in 2011. The first person that showed it to me, we were at one of their data centers, and he had his own system running, mining Bitcoin, and he's totally breaking our NDA and stuff like that with the company. It was one of those things where most people in this space, especially nerds and engineers, I went home and just stayed up for basically 2 days straight, Googling it, looking at the code, just being like this. I had a moment back then of this is something.
It feels inevitable to me that we move to decentralized finance in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, Bitcoin is kind of the heart, the original DeFi, is it replacing banks as the issuers of currency.
I really like the decentralized version of the DeFi aspect for governance, because I think finance will always work itself out because it has incentives. I think governance in DeFi is super, super interesting.
Yeah, far-reaching implications, that's for sure.
Yeah, just because like you can, the potential to like boot somebody out that doesn't do good things in current law is extraordinarily hard. But if you have a community that all fully agrees, to a consensus to do something, having it being able to happen very quickly, I mean, that's powerful. Because, typically, I don't need to talk politics too much, but typically you have guys that are in office that are so disconnected from the world. Like, whether they tell you or not, they're extraordinarily wealthy, so they're immediately out of a huge amount of the American bracket. And they are at an age where they don't even understand what the fuck is going on anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not saying that old dudes can't like be up to date, but I would say a lot of them aren't. And they do a good job campaigning, which is a racket on itself. And once people actually start seeing them in their office seat, it's like, holy shit, I don't actually like this person. And so the decentralized aspect of streamlining, getting somebody into a position that they should be, and then potentially keeping them or exiting them is huge. It goes back to that, like what I talked about at the very beginning, why the Bitcoin code is so great, because the peers are incentivized to run, and the network is incentivized by the peers. And if you just kind of flip that into government, that would have like an extraordinarily awesome system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where my mind goes frequently, because technology's advanced a long way since we started our representative type of government, and it seems like we could probably be more efficient with some newer technology.
I would hope so. We can't fucking vote online. What the hell? What?
We can't. Yeah, no, we can't count the votes. Like 2021. Like really?
Think about that. Here's your private key and your public key, and then you just go vote. I mean, it's already been proven you can't hack it. Maybe someone could take your private key, so you'd have to build a system. As long as you logged on and was like, hey, I didn't actually vote, there wouldn't not be a hard system, honestly.